Welcome back to HR Baddies, where HR is real talk, not HR textbook. I'm Katie Garcia, and if you caught me speaking at HR Virginia this year, then you'll know that I presented on this exact topic, which is trust. How to build it, how to keep it, and most importantly, how to rebuild it after it's been broken. In the last couple of episodes, we've talked about disengagement, we've talked about burnout. These are two big symptoms of lost trust. So now let's talk about the root cause, rebuilding it after disruption, change, maybe leadership shifts. There's lots of reasons that trust can be broken. So this episode, I really want to focus in HR as the part truth teller, a little bit of strategy, and a lot of action. Even though change can be good, change can also shake people's confidence. It can feel like uncertainty a lot of times, especially in a corporate environment where not everybody knows the whole picture. And not knowing the whole picture can fill people with uncertainty and fear. Whether it's a merger, a reorganization, a leadership change, layoffs, new contracts, loss of work, there's a lot of different things. Trust is always something that seems to take a hit. Employees find themselves kind of wondering what's happening. Do I still have a place here? Will my voice matter? Do I fit into the strategic plan? Can I believe what I'm being told? So it really gives us a chance to look at the base, bottom, ground floor of what people can trust. When communication lags, assumptions rush in. It's just the way that it is. And assumptions or an internal incorrect narrative, that can be trust's worst enemy. So what breaks trust during change? It's not the actual change, it's how it is handled. The biggest thing that I hear and that I have lived through is lack of transparency. So leaders will delay tough conversations in order to, quote, protect people. But the silence can be absolutely deafening. And the silence can feel like betrayal. When they don't know what's happening, people will automatically go to a worst case scenario. When there's inconsistent messaging coming down, your manager tells you one thing, your supervisor tells you a different thing. You overhear the VP telling someone something completely unrelated. But when they hear different things from different sources, employees are instantly going to go to it's broken trust. If something has broken down, I'm not being involved. I'm not being told the whole story. So what kind of can be done about this and what is kind of at fault for this? I think that there's a big piece that I've talked about in the last few episodes, and that's this middle manager bridge. So managers are burnt out. They're ill-equipped, they're untrained, whatever you want to call it, but they're often too exhausted to carry the message forward. Or they'll think, well, if I tell them about this, then they're going to know X, Y, and Z. And then coupled with that, then employees go down the lane of worst case scenario in every way, shape, and form. And then it's going to lead to the managers not following through. So maybe they made changes that were made promises that would be followed through during the change or messages that would be delivered, and they never quite get there. So this bridge of middle management is a big bridge that people don't realize is crumbling. It comes back to what we talked about last week and the week before, where middle managers are ill-equipped. They need additional training. They need to learn conflict resolution, communication. They need to learn how to truly manage a team. Because when they're not, it leads to this slow deterioration, right? And trust isn't broken usually in one big explosion. In the corporate world, what we're kind of talking about is not this big, grandiose, all of a sudden, the trust is gone. We're talking about that trust dies kind of one piece at a time. It crumbles. So one thing not followed through, one message misconveyed. There's a stacking effect that goes into this which is also one of the reasons that it takes longer to build trust back. If something happens in a friendship, it's usually like, and then you either build or you don't build from there, right? In a relationship, in a friendship, in any one of those types of things. But when you're in a corporate environment, it doesn't always happen like that. It's one piece at a time. It's things chipping away, falling out, kind of the loss of solid structure, which is what people on the bottom expect from the middle, and the middle expects from the top, and the top expects from the executives. So everybody seems to stack on each other. You can't change that trust was broken, but you can make the plan to rebuild it the right way. It can't be done with a memo. It can't be done with an all hands meeting. It takes a real behavioral change for people to know that it's real, it's sincere, it's legitimate. So the biggest thing as a leader that you can do to rebuild trust is acknowledge it openly. Just say it out loud. We know the trust has been shaken. That honesty will give you kind of instant credibility from people. Hey, we know we effed up, right? We know that this could have gone better. We're working now to get better communication, to establish better processes, whatever it may be. But you're working, you have a plan, you're acknowledging it instead of letting it just kind of sit in the room for people to be like, is anybody going to talk about the fact that we got completely left in the dark, or we got shut out, or we were all laid off with nothing additional to come of it? Another thing that goes into it is communication. So communicate more. I cannot stress this enough. Even if you don't have all the answers, as a manager, show that you are not hiding anything. Consistency is what will build psychological safety, which is what teams, employees want. That is what they want. They want to know that the person that's in charge of them has it together. They have it. They have the ball. They're running the ball, and that's it. Nobody else has to worry about it because they got it, right? So you have that psychological safety aspect of it, which if you don't have that, there is never going to be a way that you can rebuild trust. If there is no confidence in you as a leader, there is no way that you will overcome it to rebuild trust in your team. Another piece that you should consider is involving your people for feedback. Ask people that you trust, ask peers, ask team leads, ask whoever you feel confident in. Ask them for feedback. Ask them, say, how do we rebuild? Let's build this idea of shared ownership. Because when you have shared ownership, you have shared recovery. The same way that in the military, people have said to me often that when you have a common enemy, it builds morale and camaraderie. So if you can have a shared idea of ownership, you'll have shared recovery. Because one, you've already acknowledged that this is the problem. We acknowledge that trust has been broken, that it's been shaken, that communication was a breakdown. So you've built the instant credibility. Then you've communicated. You are communicating. You're actively communicating. Everything revolves around communication to show that, hey, I don't have the answers, but I'm also not hiding anything. So you've built that psychological safety. Then third, you're like, hey, we're in this together. We are in this boat together. So what can we do as a team to build it back? The next thing is to do what you say you're going to do. This is adult 101, right? If you say, let's update this in 2 weeks, actually do it. Predictability is the next thing that your team needs to see from you. They need to know that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. This goes into parenting, this goes into relationships, this goes into like a lot of aspects of life. But just do what you say you're going to do. This is adult 101. So those are 4 great steps to go beyond sending a memo to say, hey, here we go, changes are happening, stand by, to saying, hey, we effed up. Build the credibility, build the psychological safety by by telling them that you don't have the answers, but you're communicating, relentlessly communicating, consistently communicating. You're asking them to share the ownership of, hey, how do we fix this and make it better? You're sharing the ownership, so you're sharing the recovery. It's a team effort. Then you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Those are the 4 steps that you start off with to rebuild trust. Those are the main ideas that you can take. So when you're dealing with burnt out managers, you're dealing with managers that have no follow through. The team's never going to get behind that. They're never going to want to rebuild trust. They're going to want to look for someone who they can rely on, someone who does show up, someone that is not going to be inconsistent, someone that's not going to be, frankly, burnt out. We talked about HR burnout in one of the last podcasts. That's a real thing. When HR is burnt out, there's a lot of bridges that get missed. There's a lot of pathways that could have been pursued that then aren't, because HR turns into this I don't know, jug handle station or something, where lots of things are routing into it from different angles. And then it's up to HR to kind of filter through and direct things where they need to go. That's a big piece of communication and management. Your managers need to know what they're in charge of. They need to know what is expected of them. They need to be sometimes given the words to say. So maybe don't leave it on to them to deliver the message of, here are the changes that are coming. Run a meeting and have an active hands-on training, a fruitful meeting, not a meeting that could have been an email, a real fruitful meeting. Because when leadership, so senior leadership passes it down to middle management, and middle management passes it down to the workforce, you want it to be the same message. You want it to be consistent. You want to show that if they talk to the CEO of the company, they talk to the shift supervisor, or they talk to Daryl that sits in the cubby next to them, that they're getting the same story, because everyone has heard the same thing, which will make them feel safer. Maybe it's not what they want to hear, but it is something that they will hear, and they won't spiral into this whole other angle of things. When there's consistency and there's follow through and there's constant messaging and there's transparency, these are all things that are going to help to rebuild trust the right way. There's a whole example of an HR investigation that I did. So in this HR investigation, there was a workforce of people, and all of them were being bullied by their managers. Now, there were a few people, which it became very, very apparent who those, quote, golden people were. But the golden people who were in the general workforce were pushing the same messaging and agenda as the managers that were bullying the general staff, right? So there was, people were getting preference on overtime, or people were getting, kind of cut early, or, got to stay later, or there was a lot of different things relating to scheduling that happened. They were approved PTO versus denied PTO, or there would be like a heads up, like, hey, I have Joe's request for PTO, but I know you said you wanted to be on vacation this week. So go ahead and submit yours so I can approve yours and tell Joe, sorry, but someone's was already approved. Make sure that you date yours, whatever day. So there was kind of all of this insider dealing going on. And it turns out that the people that were doing the complaints were a quiet little head down workforce. They just wanted to come to work and do their job. But their peers are telling them one thing. Their managers are telling them the same thing. That's all kinds of sideways. So they go to try to go above. They go to HR, who's being just squashed out. And the senior leaders are telling them, no, don't get involved. Let this be handled by the manager. So it can happen from the top down, but it can also happen from the bottom up. So being aware and knowing where the breach of trust is coming from is also going to be very critical to how it is rebuilt. Now, in the situation that I was just talking about, it would be really complicated for them to kind of eliminate that whole middle tier, because who would move into all those, let's say, 5 roles? So it's a 24-hour operation. So you need people that work day, swing, and nights, right? There's a bunch of different caveats that go into it. but it was creating a culture where women didn't want to be there, where like anybody that wasn't a white dude in his 30s to 40s, they just didn't want to be there because they weren't on that inside track. And that started becoming scary to talk to the senior leadership about, right? Where it's like, hey, this looks totally like there's gender discrimination, there's racial discrimination, there's all these different facets that start to play into it. And so sometimes the workforce that keeps their head down and just wants to keep going will also be your strongest ally when you're going through to rebuild the trust. Partner with them, really kind of give them the chance to freely vent what they're seeing, hearing, and feeling. Because had nobody spoken up, we never would have known that the issues were coming laterally and the issues were coming downward. And then further from that, HR was being told to butt out. So the way that they were able to remedy it was by terminating people. And that's the harsh reality of what it is. But when it comes to protecting your culture of your organization, it's so important that there is trust in each of the tiers of the corporation, each tier of the business. Maybe you're a small business and you're the owner and you manage a team of 8 people by yourself. There still needs to be the ability for the team to know, trust, and understand what is happening with all different things. Maybe you're a tiny little HVAC company, and maybe you're getting approached by this larger organization who wants to come in and buy your little mom and pop shop and roll it into this larger organization. Well, you're looking at it in a lot of different ways from a business perspective, but all the employees are going to see, hear, and feel is that we're being abandoned. So messaging out communication is so important from large organizations, like I talked about, to small organizations where it's mom and pop. Nobody is exempt from a breach of trust, but everybody has the opportunity to repair it. Changes don't have to break trust. Rebuilding trust when it has been broken is the defining factor. That's what takes courage, consistency, humility. You can't rush to be credible. You have to earn it. And it's earned one action at a time. It's earned by putting people first. That's what I talked about when I was in Virginia. And I did a whole presentation on moving the needle on building trust. So I talked all about specifically how, as leaders, it is ultimately and supremely important that we have good, strong communication skills. If there's any skill that you're going to invest in for your middle managers, for your high performers, for any of these great workforce trends that people are focused into, put them into communication training, how to actively listen, how to empathetically listen, how to communicate intentionally. Those are the skills that managers need to have at every level. And that's the wonderful thing, is they're totally trainable skills. You can put people into courses. They're offered virtually. They're offered on site. You can have somebody come to your organization and run it for a day, do a workshop. There's so many different options specifically regarding communication. It is such a lacking skill in middle leadership. And so I would really encourage you, regardless of your size, to really kind of focus into that. That's the tactical takeaway for today, is that trust can be broken. It cannot be broken. Today, we're talking about that it is broken. So communication is one of the pieces that can help you at each different step, before it's broken, as it's broken, after it's broken. So that is today's episode. Next week, we're going to dig into something that every HR pro has seen firsthand. And that's what we just kind of talked about, how to coach managers who are cultural blockers. So don't let middle managers ruin what is there and what is good and what people can align to. We're going to talk specifically about that next week. So check hrbaddies.com and I'll see you there.